Now the head and body are done and I've put them aside for now, and next we're going to make the arms, and obviously we're going to make 2 of these. So I'm going to show you how to make 1, but you have to make 2. And it tells us to begin with white yarn, and then round 1, 6 double crochet in ring. Do not join, work in continuous rounds. So as before, it's asking us to do 6 single crochets into a magic ring, and we're not going to join at the end of each round. We're going to continue to single crochet around and around without joining. So I'm going to do my version of a magic ring like I did with the head, and that is to slip knot onto my hook and chain 2. So 1 and 2. And now into the second chain from hook, I'm going to do 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Now round 2, increase 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets into every stitch for 6 times. So 2 single crochets into every stitch for a total of 12 stitches. So into the first stitch, I'm going to do 2 single crochets for stitches number 1 and 2. Into the next stitch, stitches number 3 and 4. Into the next, 5 and 6. Into the next, 7 and 8. Into the next, 9 and 10. And the last stitch of this round, 11 and 12. So we have 12 stitches. Now round 3 states, increase double crochet in the next double crochet 6 times. So I'm going to do 2 single crochets into a stitch, then I'm going to single crochet into the next stitch. I'm going to do all of that 6 times, and at the end of this round we'll have a total of 18 stitches. So into the first stitch we're going to do an increase for 1 and 2, then single crochet in the next for 3. Increase in the next stitch for 4 and 5. Single crochet in the next for 6. Increase in the next for 7 and 8. Followed by a single crochet for 9. Increase in the next for 10 and 11. Then single crochet for 12. Increase in the next for 13 and 14. Increase in the next for 15. Then increase for 16 and 17, and increase and single crochet in the last stitch of this round for stitch number 18. So now for rounds 4 and 5, so for 2 rounds we're going to single crochet around, well it says double crochet into each stitch, so we're going to single crochet into every stitch around for 2 rounds. So remember we have 18 stitches, so we'll do 2 rounds of single crochet. So next it says change to grey yarn. So the first thing we have to do is fasten off with the white. So I'm going to do a slip stitch in the next stitch to join, chain 1, and I'm going to cut this tail and pull that yarn tail through. And now we're ready to attach the grey yarn. So for rounds 6 to 8, it still says to double crochet into each stitch. So for another 2 rounds we're going to single crochet into every stitch, but we're going to be using the grey yarn. So I'll show you how I attach my new yarn. So I'm going to take the grey yarn and I'm going to slip knot onto my hook. I'm going to insert my hook into any stitch from the round beneath, yarn over and pull up a loop. So there are 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to yarn over and pull through both of these loops. So what I've done is I've done the first single crochet of the round, and I've also attached the new colour. So I'm going to continue to single crochet around twice. Now for round 9 it says decrease followed by 4 double crochets 3 times. So I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together and then do 4 single crochets, and I'm going to do that 3 times for a total of 15 stitches. So I'm going to decrease, so single crochet 2 stitches together for 1, and then single crochet 2, 3, 4 and 5, then single crochet 2 stitches together for stitch number 6, then single crochet 7, 8, 9 and 10, then single crochet 2 stitches together for 11, and single crochet 12, 13, 14 and 15. And then it says for 2 rounds, so for rounds 10 and 11, double crochet into each stitch. So we're going to single crochet into each stitch around for 2 rounds. Now round 12 says decrease, double crochet 3 times. So we're going to single crochet 2 stitches together, single crochet 3 times for a total of 12 stitches. So we're going to single crochet 2 stitches together for 1, then single crochet 2, 3 and 4, decrease for 5, then single crochet 6, 7 and 8, decrease for 9, single crochet 10, 11 and 12. So next it says for rounds 13 to 20, so 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So for 8 rounds we're going to double crochet into each stitch. So for 8 rounds we are going to single crochet into each stitch around. We have a total of 12 stitches, and then at the end we are going to fasten off and stuff. So I'm going to begin my 8 rounds of single crochet. I've just finished my stitches, and I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch to join, followed by a chain 1. I'm going to fasten off, leaving a longer than normal yarn tail because I'll use this to sew the arm onto the doll a bit later on. So now I'm going to bring in the stuffing again. There we go. And now I'm going to put this yarn tail onto an embroidery needle. And I'm going to sew the top of this arm closed. I'm just going to get it out the way now so that the only thing I have to do a little bit later is sew these arms onto the rabbit. So I'm just going to go across in a line, if you can see, and close this up. And then there is the arm. So I've already made the other arm, so I've done 2, you need to make 2, and now onto the legs. So the first 3 rounds of the legs are exactly the same as the arms, so I'm just going to whiz through them really quick. So we have round 1, we're going to make a magic ring, and we're going to do 6 single crochet into that magic ring, and we're not going to join at the end of rounds. So this is exactly the same as the arm. So we're going to chain 2, which is the equivalent of our magic ring, and then we're going to do 6 single crochets into this second chain from hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Round 2, increase 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. So we're going to do 2 single crochets into every stitch around. So into the first stitch we're going to do 1 and 2, into the next 3 and 4, into the next 5 and 6, into the next 7 and 8, into the next 9 and 10, and into the next 11 and 12. And round 3, increase, double crochet in the next double crochet. So we're going to do 2 single crochets into the first stitch, followed by a single crochet into the next 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. So into the first stitch we're going to do stitches number 1 and 2, and then single crochet for 3, increase in the next stitch for 4 and 5, followed by a single crochet for 6, increase in the next for 7 and 8, followed by stitch number 9, increase in the next for 11, 10 and 11, followed by 12, increase in the next for 13 and 14, followed by 15, then increase in the next stitch for 16 and 17, single crochet for 18. So we now have 18 stitches, and we've repeated rounds 1 to 3 of the arms. So rounds 1 to 3 were exactly the same as rounds 1 to 3 of the arms, but for round 4 it differs slightly. So round 4 says double crochet in the next 2 double crochets followed by an increase 6 times. So we're going to single crochet into 2 stitches and then do 2 single crochets into the following stitch 6 times, and we will have a total of 24 stitches. So single crochet 1 and 2, increase in the next stitch for 3 and 4, single crochet 5 and 6, increase in the next stitch for 7 and 8, single crochet 9 and 10, increase in the next stitch for 11 and 12, single crochet 13 and 14, increase in the next stitch for 15 and 16, single crochet 17 and 18, increase in the next stitch for 19 and 20, single crochet 21 and 22, and increase in the next stitch for 23 and 24. So round 5 says double crochet into each stitch, so we are going to single crochet into every stitch around for a total of 24 stitches. So we're going to do 24 single crochets. So now it tells us to change to grey. So we're going to do the same thing as we did earlier. We're going to fasten off with the white by doing a slip stitch and a chain 1, cut that yarn tail and pull through. And now we are going to join our new grey, or the new colour, which is grey, and rounds 6 to 8, so 2 rounds say double crochet into each stitch. So in grey I'm going to do 2 rounds of single crochet. So let's join the new colour, slip knot onto hook, pick up the work, insert hook into any stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So there are 2 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through both. So we've attached our new colour and we've done our first single crochet. So I'm going to do 2 rounds of single crochet. I have finished my 2 rounds of single crochet, and now onto round 9, and it says double crochet in the next 2 double crochets followed by a decrease 6 times. So we're going to single crochet into 2 stitches, then single crochet 2 stitches together 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. So single crochet 1 and 2, do 2 again, 2, then decrease for 3, single crochet 4 and 5, decrease for 6, single crochet 7 and 8, decrease for 9, single crochet 10 and 11, decrease for 12, single crochet 13 and 14, decrease for 15, then single crochet 16 and 17, and decrease for 18. So for rounds 10 to 15, so 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, so for 6 rounds it now says double crochet into each stitch. So for 6 rounds I'm going to single crochet into every stitch around. So we have 18 stitches, and I'm going to do 6 rounds of single crochet. Now round 16 states double crochet in the next double crochet, decrease 6 times. So I'm going to single crochet into the first stitch and then single crochet 2 stitches together 6 times, and we'll have a total of 12 stitches. So single crochet for 1, decrease for 2, single crochet 3, decrease for 4, single crochet 5, decrease for 6, single crochet 7, decrease for 8, single crochet 9, decrease for 10, single crochet 11, and decrease for 12. So now for rounds 17 to 20, 17, 18, 19, 20. So for the next 4 rounds, it wants us to double crochet into each stitch. So I'm going to single crochet into each stitch for 4 rounds. And then it tells us to fasten off and stuff. So I've got 12 stitches. I'm going to single crochet around these 12 stitches 4 times and then fasten off. And after you've finished your rounds, slip stitch to join. Do that again, slip stitch to join, chain 1 and fasten off, cutting our yarn. And leave a longer tail to sew this leg onto the body. And just like the arms, I'm now going to stuff the leg. So once you've stuffed your leg, we're going to do exactly the same thing as we did with our arm. We're going to press the top of our leg flat or together and we're going to sew it closed in a line. So now the leg is ready to be attached to the body. So you need to go away and make another one of these now. Next we're on to the ears. And again we're going to be making 2 of these, and it says with grey yarn, 6 double crochet into a magic ring, do not join, working continuous rounds. So we're going to make a magic ring and do 6 single crochets into that space. So slip knot onto hook, chain 2, 1 and 2, and into the second chain, or the second chain from hook, we're going to do 6 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So for rounds 2 and 3, so for 2 rounds, it says to double crochet into each stitch. So for 2 rounds, I'm going to single crochet into every stitch around. So I'm going to single crochet around these 6 stitches twice. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5 and 6, and your work is going to want to curl in on itself, so make sure you push your work through to the correct way. So another round, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So now we are up to round 4. Double crochet in the next double crochet, followed by an increase 3 times. So single crochet into the next stitch, do 2 single crochets into the following stitch, and we're going to do that 3 times, and we'll have a total of 9 stitches. So we're going to single crochet for 1, increase in the next stitch for 2 and 3, single crochet for 4, increase in the next stitch for 5 and 6, single crochet for 7, and increase in the next stitch for 8 and 9. So for round 5, double crochet into each stitch. So we are going to single crochet into each stitch for a total of 9 stitches. So just 1 round of single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. Round 6 says double crochet in the next 2 double crochets, followed by an increase 3 times. So I'm going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then do 2 single crochets into the following stitch 3 times for a total of 12 stitches. So single crochet for 1 and 2, increase in the next stitch for 3 and 4, single crochet, 5 and 6, increase in the next stitch for 7 and 8, single crochet 9 and 10, and increase in the last stitch for 11 and 12. And round 7 says double crochet into each stitch, so we're going to single crochet into each stitch around. So 12 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. So next we are on to round 8, and it says double crochet in the next 3 double crochets followed by an increase 3 times. So I'm going to single crochet into 3 stitches and then do 2 single crochets into the following stitch 3 times for a total of 15 stitches. So single crochet for 1, 2 and 3, increase in the next stitch for 4 and 5, single crochet 6, 7 and 8, increase in the next stitch for 9 and 10, single crochet 11, 12 and 13, increase in the next stitch for 14 and 15. And then round 9 says double crochet in the next 4 double crochets followed by an increase 3 times. So I'm going to single crochet into 4 stitches and then do 2 single crochets into the following stitch 3 times for a total of 18 stitches. So single crochet for 1, 2, 3 and 4, increase in the next stitch for 5 and 6, single crochet 7, 8, 9 and 10, increase in the next stitch for 11 and 12, single crochet 13, 14, 15 and 16, and increase in the next stitch for 17 and 18, for 17 and 18. And rounds 10 to 20, so 11 rounds, it wants us to double crochet into each stitch around. So we're going to single crochet around all these stitches for 11 rounds. And I'll meet you back here when I'm nearly done. I have finished my 11 rounds and now we are up to round 21 and it says decrease 9 times. So we are going to single crochet 2 stitches together 9 times for a total of 9 stitches, and then we can fasten off. So we are going to do 9 decreases. So we're going to decrease for 1, decrease for 2, decrease for 3, decrease for 4, decrease for 5, decrease for 6, decrease for 7, decrease for 8 and decrease for 9. And now we can fasten off, so we are going to slip stitch, chain 1, cut the yarn tail. And there is our ear, and we're not going to stuff this ear, so I'm just going to place that to the side for now. The next part is the inner ear, and it says to make 2 with pink yarn. So row 1, chain 2, 1 increase in second chain from hook for a total of 2 stitches, chain 1 and 10. So we are going to chain 2, and into the second chain from hook we are going to do 2 single crochets, and we're going to have a total of 2 stitches, and then we are going to chain 1 and 10. So we are now working back and forth in rows. So I'm going to slip knot onto hook and I'm going to chain 2, so 1 and 2. Now into the second chain from hook I'm going to do 2 single crochets, 1 and 2, chain 1 and turn my work. So if I turn the instructions over, we are now up to rows 2 and 3, and it says 2 double crochet. So we are going to single crochet in 2 stitches, chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do that for 2 rows. So we've turned our work. We're going to single crochet 1 and 2, 1 and 2, chain 1 and turn, and then single crochet back across these 2 stitches, 1 and 2, chain 1 and turn. Row 4 states 1 double crochet, increase for a total of 3 stitches, chain 1 and turn. So we are going to single crochet 1 and then increase in the next stitch, chain 1 and turn, and we'll have a total of 3 stitches. So single crochet 1 stitch and then increase in the next stitch for 2 and 3, chain 1 and turn our work. Now row 5 states 3 double crochet, chain 1 and turn. So we're going to single crochet across these 3 stitches, chain 1 and turn. So single crochet 1, 2 and 3, chain 1 and turn. Row 6 says 2 double crochet followed by an increase for a total of 4 stitches, chain 1 and turn. So we are going to single crochet 2, then do 2 single crochets in the next stitch for a total of 4 stitches, chain 1 and turn. So single crochet 2, 1 and 2, and then increase in the last stitch for 3 and 4, chain 1 and turn. Row 7 to 11, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So for 5 rows, it wants us to 4 double crochet, chain 1 and turn. So what I am going to do for 4 rows, I'm going to single crochet across the 4 stitches, chain 1 and turn. Sorry, I'm going to do that 5 times. So we're going to single crochet 1, 2, 3 and 4, chain 1 and turn. So that was the first time. I'm going to do that again. 1, 2, 3 and 4, chain 1 and turn. That was the second time. 1, 2, 3 and 4, chain 1 and turn. That was 3. Single crochet 1, 2, 3 and 4, chain 1 and turn. That was 4. Now last time, single crochet 1, 2, 3 and 4, chain 1 and turn. So now row 12 states 2 double crochets, decrease for a total of 3 stitches, chain 1 and turn. So we're going to single crochet 2, then single crochet 2 stitches together for a total of 3, chain 1 and turn. So single crochet 2, 1 and 2, then single crochet 2 stitches together for stitch number 3, chain 1 and turn. Then row 13 says 3 double crochets, so we are going to single crochet across 3 stitches and then we are going to fasten off. And then it tells us to sew to the ear and sew into place on head. So we're going to single crochet across these 3 stitches, 1, 2 and 3, and then fasten off. So we are going to chain 1, cut the yarn, and I've left a long tail because I'll use this tail to sew this inner part onto the ear. So if I bring in the ear that we made earlier, and here's one I made even earlier, this is what we want to do now. So if I move this stuff out the way just for a second, I want to take this pink part of the ear and I want to sew it into place like so. So I'm going to take this initial tail, so the first tail, I'm going to pop onto an embroidery needle and I'm going to pop that first of all into the top of the ear. And the only reason I've done that is to stabilise it so I can sew this into place without it wobbling all over the place. So we'll cut that off shortly. I'm now going to take the longer tail, pop that onto my embroidery needle and holding it all into place, I'm going to pick a top stitch from the grey part of the ear and an outside stitch of the pink part and sew them together. And you have to be really careful because you don't want to go right the way through the ear. You only want to take a stitch from the top layer of the grey part. You don't want to take your needle all the way through the back. You just want to take a surface stitch, then right the way through the pink. I'm going to do that all the way around. And when you've finished attaching it, you want to weave in that yarn tail and cut the 2 pink tails off. And even though the pattern said to attach this to the head now, I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to wait until the head has been sewn onto the body so that I can check the placements exactly where I want it to be. So I'm just going to pop the ears to the side. So now onto the tail, and it says with white yarn, round 1, chain 1, 6 double crochets into a ring, do not join, work in continuous rounds. So we're pretty familiar with this instruction now, and what we are going to do is 6 single crochets into a magic ring. So slip knot onto hook, chain 2, 1 and 2, and then 6 single crochets into that second chain from hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So round 2, increase 6 times. So we are going to do 2 single crochets into every stitch around for a total of 12 stitches. So 2 single crochets into every stitch. So into the first stitch, 1 and 2, into the second, 3 and 4, into the next, 5 and 6, into the next, 7 and 8, into the next, 9 and 10, and into the last, 11 and 12. So for round 3 it states increase double crochet in the next double crochet 6 times. So we are going to do 2 single crochets into the first stitch, followed by a single crochet in the next stitch 6 times, and we'll have a total of 18 stitches. So we're going to increase into the first stitch for 1 and 2, and then single crochet in the next for 3, increase for 4 and 5, single crochet for 6, increase for 7 and 8, single crochet for 9, increase for 10 and 11, single crochet for 12, increase for 13 and 14, single crochet for 15, increase for 16 and 17, and then single crochet for 18. So rounds 4, 5 and 6, so 3 rounds. It wants us to double crochet into each stitch, so we're going to single crochet into each stitch for 3 rounds. So round 7 says double crochet in the next 1 double crochet and decrease 6 times. So I'm going to single crochet into one stitch, and I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together 6 times for a total of 12 stitches. So I am going to single crochet for 1 and then decrease for 2, single crochet 3, decrease for 4, single crochet 5, decrease for 6, single crochet 7, decrease for 8, single crochet 9, decrease for 10, single crochet 11, decrease for 12. And then round 8 says decrease 6 times. So I'm going to single crochet 2 stitches together 6 times for a total of 6 stitches, and then I'm going to fasten off. So we're going to do 6 decreases. So we're going to decrease for 1, 2, 3, 4, and before this hole gets any more smaller, because I've only got 2 decreases left to do, it doesn't tell us to, but I'm going to add the stuff in now so that it's not a fight later. So I'm going to add the stuffing into the tail there, and then I'm going to finish off with the last 2 decreases. Decrease for 5 and decrease for 6. So now it's time to fasten off. So to do that, I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch to join, chain 1, cut the yarn, pull through, leave a tail, and my little tail is done. So straight onto the snout. So with the snout, again, using white yarn, it wants us to repeat rounds 1 to 3 of the tail. So it wants us to go from 6 stitches to 18 stitches. And we've done this many times in this pattern. So I'm going to fly through this because I don't want to bore you with the same instruction over and over. So round 1, 6 single crochets into a magic ring. So slip knot onto hook, chain 2, 6 single crochets into that second chain from hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. Round 2, increase into every stitch around. So we're going to increase into all stitches. So 1 and 2 into the first stitch, 3 and 4 into the next, 5 and 6 into the next, 7 and 8 into the next, 9 and 10 into the next, 11 and 12 into the last. So next they want us to increase to 18 stitches. So we're going to do 2 single crochets. We're going to increase in that first stitch for 1 and 2, then single crochet for 3, increase in the next stitch for 4 and 5, single crochet for 6, increase in the next stitch for 7 and 8, single crochet for 9, increase in the next for 10 and 11, single crochet for 12, increase in the next for 13 and 14, single crochet for 15, increase for 16 and 17, and then single crochet for 18. So now we're up to round 4, and this again will still be familiar to you. It says double crochet in the next 2 double crochets, followed by an increase 6 times. So we are going to single crochet into 2 stitches, then we are going to do 2 single crochets into the following stitch 6 times for 24 stitches. So single crochet for 1 and 2, increase in the next stitch for 3 and 4, single crochet 5 and 6, 5 and 6, increase in the next stitch for 7 and 8, single crochet 9 and 10, increase in the next stitch for 11 and 12, single crochet 13 and 14, increase in the next stitch for 15 and 16, single crochet 17 and 18, increase in the next stitch for 19 and 20, and then single crochet 21, 22, and increase in the next stitch for 23 and 24. So round 5 says double crochet in the next 3 double crochets, followed by an increase 6 times. So I'm going to single crochet into 3 stitches, then I'm going to do 2 single crochets into the next stitch. I'm going to do all of that 6 times, and I'll have a total of 30 stitches at the end. So single crochet 1, 2 and 3, increase in the next stitch for 4 and 5, single crochet 6, 7 and 8, increase in the next stitch for 9 and 10, single crochet 11, 12 and 13, increase in the next stitch for 14 and 15, single crochet 16, 17 and 18, increase in the next stitch for 19 and 20, single crochet 21, 22 and 23, increase in the next stitch for 24 and 25, then single crochet 26, 27, 28, and increase in the last stitch for 29 and 30. So for rounds 6 to 8, so 6, 7, 8, So for 3 rounds, it says double crochet into each stitch. So we are going to single crochet into each stitch around for 3 rounds. So 3 rounds of single crochet, and then it tells us to fasten off and stuff. So 3 rounds of single crochet. So finish that, and it's time to slip stitch to join, chain 1 and cut the yarn. And there is our snout, and I'm going to stuff this when I'm attaching it to the head, so I'm not going to put the stuffing in yet as it says, because it'll just fall out. So now I have the leaves and the flowers left to make, and I need to make 4 of each. So I've already made 3, so I'm going to do the last one now to show you how I did it. And with the leaves, I changed it ever so slightly just because it looked better. So the leaf says, with green yarn, make a magic ring, and then round 1, chain 3, working in the first ring, 2 trebles, chain 2, 3 trebles, all into the same ring, fasten off and sew to head. So we are going to, with the green yarn, chain 3, and then in the first chain, so the 3rd chain from hook, I'm going to do 2 half double crochets, because a half double crochet in the US is the same as a treble in the UK. I'm going to chain 3 and slip stitch into the 3rd chain from hook. So I'm going to create what's called a Picot Stitch here, and then I'm going to do 3 half double crochets all back into that first chain space. So it sounds more complicated than it actually is. Now this will make sense why I changed it slightly here in just a moment, because this is what our leaves will look like, and we want them to have a nice point on the end. And we got this nice point by making what we call a Picot Stitch, and that is where you chain 3 and you slip stitch into the 3rd chain from hook. So in the pattern it says chain 2, and this didn't create a nice point, so I didn't think it was worth using this method. So let's have a look what I mean. Let me show you and you can make your mind up. So I'm going to chain 3. So first thing I have to do is slip knot onto hook, chain 3, 1, 2 and 3. And now all of our stitches are going to be made into this first chain. So it's the 3rd chain from hook. So the first thing we're going to do is 2 half double crochets into this chain. So yarn over hook, insert hook into that chain space, yarn over and pull up a loop. So there are 3 loops on our hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. We're going to do that one more time into that same space, yarn over hook, insert hook into space, yarn over, pull up a loop. So there are 3 loops on hook, yarn over, pull through all 3 loops. So now we're going to make the Picot Stitch. So I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2 and 3, and into the 3rd chain from hook, so the 3rd chain here, I'm going to do a slip stitch. So slip stitch into that chain space, and now I'm going to do another 3 half double crochets all back into this original stitch. So all back into that first chain we ever made. So another 3 half double crochets all into that space. So 1, 2 and 3. And now we're going to finish by doing a slip stitch into that initial space. Chain 1 to fasten off. Cut our yarn and pull through. And there we have the leaf. So you need to make 4 of these in total. So there's 1, and now rewind and make another 3 of these. So last and not least, we have our flowers, and it says to make these, or to begin with yellow yarn. So make a magic ring, round 1, 5 double crochet into ring. So what we're going to do is 5 single crochets into my version of a magic ring. So with the yellow yarn, I'm going to slip knot onto hook and chain 2, 1 and 2, and into the 2nd chain from hook I'm going to do 5 single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Now it says here, do not join, work in continuous rounds, and then it tells us to change to white yarn. So we have to join, because if we don't, we won't be able to add our new colour in. So this is where the patterns get a bit stupid, because they lose the attention to detail that we need as crocheters. So it tells us not to join, but we have to, because we're going to be changing our yarn colour. So to join, I'm going to slip stitch into the first stitch and chain 1. Cut the yellow yarn and pull through. So next it states, change to white yarn, round 2, 1 double crochet, 3 treble, 1 slip stitch, 5 times in each stitch. So what we are going to do is into every stitch, so we have 5 stitches, and into each stitch we are going to do 1 single crochet, 3 half double crochet and 1 slip stitch, and we're going to do that into each stitch around, and we're going to do it with white yarn. So I'm going to bring the white yarn back in, and the first thing we need to do is attach the yarn. So I'm going to do a slip knot onto hook, and I'm going to pick any of these 5 stitches, it doesn't matter which one you choose, and I'm going to insert my hook into stitch. I'm going to get all these tails out the way so I don't get confused. So I've inserted my hook into stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So there are 2 loops on my hook, yarn over and pull through both. So I have done my first single crochet and I've attached the new colour. So the next thing we're going to do is 3 half double crochets all into that chain space, so the same space we did the single crochet. So yarn over, insert hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through all. So another 2, yarn over, insert hook into loop, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull up through all loops. So 1 more, yarn over, insert hook, yarn over, pull up, yarn over, pull through all. And then the last thing is insert hook and do a slip stitch, and there is our first petal in the first stitch. So we're going to repeat all of them actions into every stitch around, so we'll have 5 petals. So into the next stitch, single crochet, followed by 3 half double crochets, 3 half double crochets, so 1, 2 and 3, and then slip stitch in the same space. So there's our second petal. So into the next stitch we are going to single crochet, 3 half doubles, 1, 2 and 3, followed by a slip stitch. So we have 3 petals now. We're going to do this twice more, single crochet, 3 half doubles, 1, 2 and 3, followed by a slip stitch. One more time, single crochet, 3 half doubles, 1, 2 and 3, followed by a slip stitch. And then to join and finish this round, I'm going to do a slip stitch into the first stitch of this round, chain 1 and fasten off. And there is one of our flowers. So you need to obviously make 4 of these as the pattern states. And now we are ready to join all our bits together. So the part I like most about this pattern is the instructions it gives us for making up. So they're really detailed, so you can't go wrong. So for the making up, it begins, sew all pieces together, embroider eyes and mouth with black and pink yarn. So I really thought they were detailed ways of explaining how to do this. So because they're that good, I'm actually going to not use them, and I'm going to try and figure out how to do this on my own. So we have the first things that I want to join together is the head and the body. So the body is this larger part, and sorry, the body's this smaller part and the head's the larger part. So obviously they go, or not so obvious, I don't know if you think it is obvious, but they're going to be sewn together like this. So they both ended on a round with 18 stitches. I am going to pop the yarn tail of the body into the body, and I'm going to use the tail from the head just because it's the longest tail, and I'm going to pop the tail onto my embroidery needle. And I might even add some more stuff in a little bit later, but I want to get these joined as much as I can before I do that sort of thing. So I'm going to take a stitch from the head. So I'm going to go in between. You can use whatever joining method you want, but I'm going to just try and attach a stitch to a stitch, if that makes sense. So I'm going to attach a stitch from a head to a stitch from the body. And then I'm going to pick up the next stitch along on the head. And then I'm also going to pick up the next stitch along on the body. So this is going to be easier to do whilst the two components are a little bit separate, but they're going to start closing together in a minute, and that might make it a little bit more difficult. So I am going under the last stitch from the body and then under the last stitch from the head. And this is how I'm going to attach these two pieces, and once this is done, I'm hoping it will be a lot easier adding the rest of the parts. So the space is getting smaller, as you can see. There's only a couple more stitches before it's completely joined. So I'm going to keep working like this until we just barely have room left, which is about here. And I think this is where I decide if I wanted to put more stuffing in. The body feels a lot more firmer than the head. So this is all the stuffing that I have left from the pattern. So I think I'm just going to use, you may as well use it all. Oh, I need to save a bit actually for the tail. So I'm going to use a little tiny bit. I thought I was going to use it all then, but I need to save some for the tail and the snout. So this is what I've got left in the pattern box, and that'll be just enough for the snout and the tail. So the gap's a lot smaller now, maybe 2 or 3 stitches left. We're just going to close that up. Looks like an egg timer. So there we go. And now I'm going to weave in this yarn tail, and I'll show you now how I weave in ends. What I do is I insert the stitch, I insert the needle into the stitch that the yarn is currently in, then I bring it out anywhere on the doll's body. I then reinsert it back into the stitch that it came out of and bring it out somewhere else. And I will do this for 3 or 4 times. You don't want to pull too tight because you don't want to make a divot. But the idea of weaving in ends is that you are losing the tail. You want to make it near impossible for this tail to unravel. And when you've weaved it in enough, you want to trim that off. So what we have now is our rabbit's body. So what shall we do next? We will do the legs next. So I've put one leg on. I'm just going to do the other one now. So I used the picture on the box, which is this picture. Let's have a look. This picture here, and it looks like the legs were coming out the side rather than underneath. So that's what I've done. I've attached the leg to the side of the doll rather than underneath of it. So I'm putting the yarn tail on my hook, and then from the front I'm positioning or just holding them in place, and if I like the way it looks I'm going to sew it into place, which is exactly what I'm going to do. I like it there, so I'm going to hold it with my thumb, and then I'm going to sew the end piece into place first. And then I'm going to go down the side and sew a couple. If I don't do this, the leg's going to be dead floppy. So I'm going to hold the leg into place still, and I'm going to pick up some of the side stitches and sew the side of the leg down also. And then I'm going to insert my needle and bring it out the bottom of the leg, and I'm going to do the same thing like you see I've done on the first leg there. I've sewn a couple of these stitches down also, so a couple of stitches from the top and the bottom. Cool, and when I'm happy with that I'm going to weave in this tail. And whilst I'm working with the bottom and the back of the bunny, we will also attach the tail now. So, got the tail, pop this onto an embroidery needle, and then I'm going to sew this into place using a very similar or the same method that I used to attach the head to the body. So you just go through a stitch on both pieces. So next we're on to the arms, and again from looking at the picture the arms are literally sewn like so, they're just attached at the top. So I'm going to pop the yarn tail onto my hook, and we can attach one arm together. So I'm going to find a position that I like, which is right there, and I'm going to just attach the top of the arms together onto the body. I'm not going to attach the whole the side parts like I did with the leg. I'm just going to do the top part. And the reason for that is I think it'd be nice if the arms had some movement, whereas I wanted the legs to stay completely where I put them. To make that nice and secure. And when you're happy, weave in that tail. There's one arm, now I'm going to do the second one. So the snouts next. I've used a couple of pins just to hold the arms down while I'm doing this, because they keep getting tangled in the yarn. So when I'm finished I'll take the pins out and the arms will be free. But I've pinned the snout where I want it to be, which is as close to the bottom as I can get it. Now I'm going to sew this into place. No fancy method here, I'm just going to whip stitch around and take out the safety pins when I get to them. So snout's done, one ear's on, time for the other ear. And I deliberately never sewed this gap up at the bottom, because in order for the ears to stay up straight, we need to join or sew every stitch beneath onto the head. So if we'd just sewn it in a line, it would have been too floppy. Hope that makes sense. So I'm going to just moving this position of the yarn to the side, because that's where I like to start my sewing. At the side of work, I'm going to hold the ear where I want it to go, and then sew it into place. At the minute our bunny rabbit looks like a donkey. If it turns out to be a donkey though, that's still cute, but it's not what was intended, I suppose. So I'm picking a stitch up from the head and a stitch up from the frontmost part of the ear. This is so difficult to do, holding the doll away from me for the camera. And normally when I sew, I hold things right up to my nose. So now I'm at the back, and it's time to sew these back stitches into place as well. Ooh, just assaulted my lamp. There we go. And then thread that tail in. Shall we do the face detail next? Yeah, we will. We'll do the face detail next. So we need to do a nose. So I'm going to bring the pink in, and I'm going to cut a length of pink yarn. I'm going to pop that onto my embroidery needle, and I'm going to sew a triangle a little bit higher up. So I'm going to bring the yarn in from the side, find the position I want the nose to be, and the first thing I'm going to do is sew the outline of the shape. So I'm going to sew the actual triangle in first, which is like that. Check I'm happy with it, which I definitely am. And now this is like colouring in, but with yarn. I'm just going to take the yarn loosely from side to side and fill in that gap with colour. Now you don't want to pull too tight, because if you do, you're going to change the shape of the triangle. So we're just going to go from side to side, following the triangle we've put in, and fill it in with colour. There we go. So I'm going to go over them sides again to make sure the shape is defined. Then I'm going to bring my needle out elsewhere on the body and weave in the tail. And don't forget to cut off that initial starting tail. So next we need the eyes and the mouth, so that's with black yarn. So I've got the black yarn that we got. Just got to find the end. There we go. Do the same thing, cut a length of black yarn off. Pop it onto my embroidery needle, and I think I'll do the eyes first. So it's basically dealer's choice where you want the eyes to be. I'm going to bring one eye out here. So I'm going to bring the yarn in from the back again. And how I'm going to sew an eye is, I'm going to sew over the same stitch multiple times. And it's going to make that space bigger. So you just want to keep sewing over the same stitch until your eye is as big as you want it to be. And then I'm going to bring my needle out the opposite side. Make sure I pick the right place. Let me see. Yeah, it's about there. And do the same thing on the opposite side. So sew the second eye in by sewing over the same couple of stitches multiple times. Some people are so good at hand embroidery, but this is probably the absolute maximum that I can achieve. So after the second eye's done, I'm going to bring my needle out at the mouth, and now I can sew the mouth in. Going to check all them details, and then I can weave in these tails and cut. So the last thing we have is the flowers for the head, and I'm going to share with you a little trade secret. Sometimes on things this small I don't sew them on because it's too annoying and it's too finicky, so I would use glue, and I either use super glue or I use fabric all-purpose glue. And that's exactly what I'm going to do today. So if you want to, you can sew all of these on by hand, but I am going to use some glue. So I'm going to unravel my lid, and I'm going to get a tissue, so 1 second. And you can attach these however you want, so I'm going to put a leaf at the back. I'm going to put the leaves down first. Well, 2 of them. Shall I put 2 down first? No, I'll put that where it is first. And now I'm going to attach some of the flowers. Oh. Little details like this on top of amigurumi just make things look so much neater. Going to add a flower here. And I'm going to add some glue just underneath, because I'm going to add a leaf there. Once I put glue on, and then I pinned all the pieces into place to stop them moving, and then when I come to get the pins out, the pins have been glued in. So it's a little bit annoying, but I do have to hold them for a couple of seconds for the glue to set. So if this is your first time doing it, don't put glue on something and then put a pin in it, because you won't get the pin back out. Okie doke. What am I going to do next? I'm going to do another flower here. And I'm going to put a little bit of a leaf underneath that flower. So let's have a look. Yeah, I'm going to do a leaf here. So I'm going to add the glue and pop the leaf into place. He's starting to look cute, but I still think he looks a little bit like a donkey. And then we have one more flower, which I'm going to put over this side here. I'm going to let all this glue dry, and I'll be back to show you the finished results. And we have one more leaf, which I'm going to put here. Okie doke, so I'll see you in a couple of minutes when this is all dried. And there you have the completed bunny rabbit. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial. This crochet kit wasn't as annoying as some of the others that I've done in the past, but I also think that I'm becoming a bit immune to them, and because I've done so many of them, I see the mistakes in the pattern and I just correct them normally now. So I did see a lot of mistakes in the written pattern and there was a lot of inconsistencies, but I still think it was doable and it was manageable. And I think that the overall bunny turned out really well, and it's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. So for £3.99, I actually think this was one of the better crochet kits I've done. So if you do make this, don't forget to tag me on Instagram using the hashtag Teenie Crochets, and other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.